Alrighty guys, we have our Brinsea incubator all set up now. I have the water reservoir, which it uses to control the humidity with. There's a hose here that sits down inside. You can probably see the air bubble. Yeah, it's right there. A little hard to see. But it's starting to pull water through there. And what that's going to do is pull it through there. It's going to go into this pump here. And it's a little weird. It's a hose that is wrapped around. So it comes in here, goes underneath this. I don't know if you can really see it through there, but if you see that black piece there, it actually has two poles, or two, like poles that come top and bottom, and it rotates. So it's like pulling the air through as it rotates. So this cord here comes up, wraps underneath and back around, and then comes out this side. And then there's a water reservoir here, as you can see. That's the heating element there. So it's going to flow down there into that channel, and it's going to hit that cotton block, which will absorb the water and then evaporate when it gets warm enough, and then keep the humidity level up. There are a bunch of settings on here that I can show you. I still haven't figured out what that one is. I guess don't wear clothes or something, I don't know. But anyway, press these two buttons here, the plus and minus, and you can control the exact temperature. It's to cancel and save all your things. You can change from Celsius to freedom degrees, which it comes set on Celsius, and I don't want to do conversions, so I'm going to do the freedom degrees. It's a lot easier. There is a cooldown time on this, which is normally set to off. I don't really understand why you would need that, because they need their heat after they're born, so their feathers and stuff dry off, so I'd have to look more into that, but normally that's set to off anyway. So we'll go through here. There is an alarm for the low temperature. So if you set the temperature, like for quail, it's 99.6 degrees up to 100 degrees. You can set it to, if it goes down below, let's say 99.1 or 97 degrees, an alarm in here will go off telling you that something's wrong. And then it also has one for the high end, so if it gets too hot, the alarm will go off and tell you, so you can come and figure out what's going on, and you can just cancel the alarm here, fix whatever you need to, and go on from there. It also has how often you want these to turn. Standard is set at 45 minutes. It'll turn one way and then turn back the other. I'll probably leave it on that. I might look into it a little bit more and see how often, if needed. Quail eggs need to be turned. They need to be turned. They do it in nature so that the embryo doesn't stick to one side of the egg and then cause deformities. So we're going to go see what else we have here. That's the turn mode. That's the turn frequency. And then the best thing about this Brinsea incubator is most don't have a humidity control. So this one you can actually set to store and produce what humidity you want at a regular basis. So as long as that's full of water, it's going to keep the humidity around that level. Again, you have your flap here where you can manually control if you want it more or less. But for now, we'll just keep it in the middle. We're going to let this run for a little while before we do anything with it to make sure everything works fine. And then back to the temperature. So we're just going to go ahead and cancel because we don't need to change anything. Right now it's at 99.8, which is perfect. The humidity again needs to be around 45 to 55 for quail. It's on the lower end right now because we just set it up and it still hasn't pulled all the water through there to keep itself maintained. I'm actually curious as to what I set it at. I believe I set it to 50 just to be safe, to be in the middle range. No, it's on 45, so we'll go with 50%, and it'll stay in that range between like 45 and 55, which is nice. We'll hit OK, or actually we need to save. And that's that. Very easy to set up. I did have to trim down just a little bit of that cotton evaporation pad off to put it in there, and then you have to squeeze it down pretty hard, because what was happening, I don't know if you saw in the last video, this last one here was a little hard to turn, so I figured it was that evaporation pad. So I flattened it down a little bit more with a book and then trimmed off the edges, so now it turns freely with no problems. I'm not going to open it up to show you, just because I want to make sure the temperature is going to get up where it needs to go and the humidity is going to go up where it needs to go. But the number one thing is to make sure that your water reservoir is always full, and to make sure that you do set a high and low temperature alarm on this, because you don't want to overcook your eggs and you don't want them to not hatch because they weren't warm enough. Usually when you order eggs, they will send you a few more just to be safe, which is always nice. So we ended up getting 96. The incubator we had that time was a Wright Farm 6000 that, when we first got it, the fan on top, the circulation fan, which is what I showed you there, on that one, it was a little loud, but we figured maybe it was just misaligned. So we had all of our eggs in there, and what happened is, in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep one night, but luckily, so I heard the humidity alarm going off, so I jumped up to see what was going on, and the fan decided to stop, and it smelled like burnt plastic in the house. So it was just cheaply Chinese made. It was $100, so it was kind of expensive. We figured it would be adequate for what we're doing compared to the styrofoam containers that are just still air, which I talked about before, that don't circulate anything. We ended up losing quite a bit because it was roughly the same size as that one, but then I had to kind of try to fit 96 eggs in here. So there was a lot of them on top. We couldn't really do anything. We couldn't get another incubator in time. We didn't really want to buy another cheaply made one. We wanted to make sure that we actually went with Brinsea. And we ended up only getting 37, I believe, but we still lost a few after those were hatched. A lot of them just ended up cracking because there wasn't enough space, and they just pretty much cooked, which was very disappointing. So I would definitely not recommend buying any cheaply Chinese manufactured incubators. If you're gonna do it, even if it's just for a few chickens, they make smaller Brinseas that are like roughly half this size. They're round, they hold up to 8 eggs. Spend the extra money and get a Brinsea. It's definitely worth it. These are pretty much like the Ferrari of the incubation world. They're worth every penny. We've never really had any problems. This one still produced eggs even after that malfunction with the other one. We got our package of eggs. We got these from a guy in, you wanna come say hi, Neil? Huh? Yeah? Yeah, you're a good girl. We got these from a guy in North Carolina, where we got our other Texas A&M. I decided to go with him again, even though we had the misfortune of not getting all the eggs hatched last time. But I don't believe that was at all anything to do with his eggs. It was a poor incubator, and then the circumstances just weren't very great. So let's see if I can set something up here so we can show you how these are packed. Up here. Sorry if it goes in and out of focus a little bit while I'm doing this, but we're not going to put these in for a little bit just so they get up to room temperature. I'm not sure what they were like at the facility, the local post office, but the way they package these is really nice, because you know how great package handlers can be sometimes. Even though it says fragile, they treat it like a football. But here, get my fingers out of the way. Here's how they send it. So it comes covered up in this soft styrofoam here, and it's also packed with these styrofoam peanuts, which I was thinking this would be a good idea to put into like a small chicken waterer, to keep shavings and stuff out. If you just take it and put a whole bunch around the outside of a chicken waterer, it would help keep some of the dirt and stuff out, and they'd still be able to get it because these things would be wet and they could get their water off of it. But anyway, so here's how the eggs come. They're shipped pointy side down, and that's how we're going to incubate them. Because what happens is if they were turned pointy end up, I think it's the last 6-7 days that the chick is in the egg, they kind of orientate themselves the other way. So if this was flipped the other way, their head would be up here and they would have a very small airspace. Whereas if that's the other way, they have all that more surface area that they can get air from and then try to get out of. So the hatch rate should be a lot better doing it that way. So let's see, there should be 2 rows of these. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Together, 96. And that's awesome that they always send a few more. If we end up getting at least half, so if we get up 48, so pretty much this row here, if we get all these to hatch, I'd be happy about that compared to the last hatch rate that we had. But if we end up getting more than that, it would be absolutely amazing. If we can get closer to 60-70%, be very nice. Because we definitely need our stock brought up. So we're going to hatch these out, and then about 2 weeks later we'll probably start. Ours should be breeding by then, so we should be able to start breeding our own. But that'll be it for now, guys. Whenever I start to put them in the incubator, which will be here in a couple hours, once that thing is all settled, I will show you that process. So we'll see you soon.